Hey guys, it's Adam from Illumaesthetic. We're here on part 2 of our multi-part GD Angel Wings build walkthrough. If you like these videos, make sure you show your support and let us know by hitting the subscribe button and the notification bell somewhere around here. Make sure you leave a comment and let us know what you want to see. But let's just jump right into this. So for the first part, I went over how to cut open these lights. So we're going to go ahead and move on with these lights being open now. Into the next part. So our second part is going to cover a little bit of prep work. We're going to go ahead and prep these to accept the panels. So in this case, we have our GD Angel Wings panels right here. This is one side. And you're going to notice that once we separate this, we're going to take this off as well. We don't need this. And we're going to just deal with this piece today. You're going to notice that on this light, we're going to have to remove this piece. And then as well, you're going to notice that there's this separator here that we need to remove. Also, for those watching, I do want to add a side note. This is a USDM, US market 0405 Subaru Impreza sedan taillight. If you are out of country, say Australia or Japan, your inside will look slightly different. The JDM version will actually look like this on the inside, and we'll cut to a picture to show you the differences. It's a very subtle difference, but just keep in mind if you do have a JDM light, everything else will be similar. However, you will need to cut more of this area out to get this panel to fit, as this is designed to utilize the wider area pocket of the USDM lights. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. This will need to get popped out. So let's go ahead, take a flathead. There's going to be 3 clips here. You can use whatever clip you want. This is pretty self-explanatory, but I'm just going to push down and push out. Usually you don't want to reuse this for this specific build. For other builds you might want to, but for now I'm not going to use it. So that's pretty much it. And then this piece goes over here like so. It's designed to fit on top so that you don't have to do any weird fitment. So there's that. This top piece fits on here like so. However, you're going to notice that once you have LEDs in, it might hit right here. So you're actually going to want to sand that down a little bit. And we'll cover that in a later video. Or not later video, later in the video. For this piece, the final piece, the bottom piece, you're going to notice that this center rib will get in the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a Dremel or a sonic cutter, your choice. In this case, I'm going to use a sonic cutter, and I'm actually going to cut this piece away. Take special attention to kind of not damage this lip, because you're going to want to keep it in good condition. Just as a cosmetic thing. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. And very quickly, go ahead and cut it. So take my sonic cutter. And for those who don't know what a sonic cutter is, this is actually like one of those specialty crafting tools that we have for cutting plastics and whatnot. If you're interested in sonic cutters and you see doing this as like a hobby or a side thing, we highly recommend looking into buying one. We do have another video on this. You can see here, or we'll link it in the description. But it just goes over kind of how to use these, as well as kind of a quick tutorial on how to cut them, or cut lights with these. And we're going to go ahead and just very quickly. Okay. So just like that. If you want to take sandpaper or a sanding disc and kind of smooth that out, now would be a good time. I'm actually going to take my sonic cutter and just kind of flatten stuff out a little bit, just to make sanding a little easier. But generally speaking, that's usually good enough. So this is more of a build specific thing, but if you're doing a Angel Wings diffusion, so when you're in a diffusion build, you're going to want to cut a little more off. because you want to have a 1/4 inch of spacing between the panel and the LED strip. So for this purpose, I'm not going to bother doing that. If I need to cut more, I can always cut more later. For now, just trying to show you guys, this fits in like that. And that's more or less the base prep. The other thing we're going to do is for paint, we're going to go ahead and paint this. So I'm going to actually mask off this reflector piece, and I'm going to do that off camera. But now, actually real quick, you can see that this centerpiece connects here, and even though this doesn't really get in the way per se, I'm going to just trim it down just in case. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this off too. So that's good. This has more or less all the prep. Like I said, we're gonna sand this off. I'll do this in the next step, but this is more or less prep. So now let's go over to the paint room that we have, and I'll show you the next couple steps where we're gonna use a Dremel to clean it up and use a couple of chemicals to prep the chrome piece. So let's go.
All right, in this section of the video, we're going to be prepping the housing for the panels to be installed. We're going to be painting them, and also there's a chrome finish on these panels or the housing, and it's real chrome. So if you have your panel inserted in the housing and one of the backs of the LED pins makes contact with this paint, it could arc and cause an issue, cause dead LEDs, causing you to have to reopen the entire housing and pretty much start over from scratch. So in order to prevent that, we need to strip off this chrome paint. And you can use several different methods like sandpaper or paint thinner or acetone. I'm gonna just show you here really quick. I have some 600 grit sandpaper with me. I'm not gonna wet sand it. I'm gonna be pretty rough with it. And then I have some just straight acetone that will just rub into it. And you can see with the sandpaper, it will pretty much start pulling off most of that paint very instantly. And you can see going down to the base, you'll see the plastic coming through the paint. So right here, we still have a little bit of the chrome paint on the plastic. And then right here, we have bare plastic. So we'll just go down the bare plastic really quick. And here this is about what you would want to see after, you know, washing it off. And you can come back with sandpaper again and quick wet sand it with 600 or 800, depending on how concerned you are with how smooth this finish is right here. And if we use the acetone, you usually won't have to wet sand the plastic because you're not actually digging into the plastic with the sandpaper. So we'll just use a little bit of acetone here. And then a microfiber, and just rubbing it in, that acetone will just start eating away at the chrome paint. And you can see just with a little bit of acetone, a little bit of light pressure with a microfiber, it will just strip it right off. And this is what you want to see, just bare plastic, and then go all along, especially in this area right here and any area where any LED pin could make contact with the back of this panel. So you can see here the acetone, it pretty much removes all the chrome paint just from light pressure and a microfiber cloth and letting it just kind of sit and eat away at the chrome. And then we have to move all along any area where potentially that panel, the back of the panel and those LEDs can touch this paint. So we'll move all across this section right here and the underside right here, and once we remove that, we'll be fine with this specific one since we don't have any LEDs that are exposed in this part of the housing or close enough to anything in this part of the housing. But just to be safe, we'll kind of get rid of it around the edge where that sits, just to make sure that there's no possibility that that panel is going to arc on any of this paint. Now that we've rubbed off most of the chrome paint, You can see all throughout here, got up under this lip and on the lower lip, and then pretty much completely stripped out anything that was nice and close, this shallow area that would be right up against the panel. Now we can scuff up the rest of the area for priming and painting. So we're gonna focus on these lower areas since the panel will be covering these bigger sections. We only really need to make sure that we are scuffing up a lot of the exposed areas so that we can get a nice good layer of paint that's not gonna flake off, because it will flake off of this chrome paint. And we're gonna be using 600 grit sandpaper. You can wet sand, but the primer is going to fill most of any of the scuffing that you do. So I'm just going to dry sand with 600 grit and focusing on those areas that are gonna be exposed. You can be really light and quick with it. You're just trying to give a little bit of surface area for that primer to latch onto. And then make sure to clean off any of the residue that the sandpaper may have pulled off. It'll just kind of be a fine dust. Want to make sure you get all of that off before spraying it. And microfiber is great for this. Microfiber will grab all that dust, or at least most of that dust. We do have little crevices in here that dust can be a little bit tricky to get at. So if you have like a can of air or an air compressor to just blow it off, you can blow it off. Otherwise, you can take it to the sink, just rinse it off and let it dry before painting it. So now we can start and put a thin layer of primer on here. When spraying these down, you really want to think about these lips right here. So when you hit these lips, be very light with your coats, and you're gonna want to do it oriented in one direction to hit the top of this lip, and then do it in the other direction to hit the bottom of this lip right here, and then a light coating, you know, on the face of it. And then over here, you can just kind of spray with even coats as normally, and same thing with the lower section and whatnot. You're not going to be too concerned about getting paint, of course, back behind where those panels sit. And that's about as much as you really need to do. You can be pretty heavy with the primer if you want. Don't get too concerned about any pooling up, because you can always sand that back down. But you want to make sure that the primer comes out as a nice smooth finish. So we're going to let this fully dry, and then we can hit it with paint. And what we're going to see here is something similar to this guy right here. So now that we have everything primed, we can go ahead and start laying down our first coat of black paint. And with the black paint, you're going to be doing the same thing. You want to make sure that you get enough paint inside of these lips right here, and make sure that you have nice even coats. You can do this with a rattle can. I'm going to be using a paint gun with some paint that we have mixed here, but you can accomplish this with even just simple Rust-Oleum spray paint. We're going to stay nice and even. Gonna let this coat dry before applying another coat, and you're gonna wanna probably add 1 to 2 coats. You can do 3 if you want. The important thing is making sure that that it's the color that you want, the consistency that you want, and if you end up having any debris or anything get caught in the paint, you can always wet sand it and then coat back over it. And then once we have the second coat on it, we'll get something that appears like this. And this is just a nice blacked out housing, stealthy, and helps draw attention to the panels and the panels only. And that's about it. This housing right here is ready for panel installation, and we'll be showing that in another video. But other than that, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.